Certain enigmas grip like thorns, embedding in the fabric of quiet lives and refusing to yield. In the sun-baked expanses of rural Texas, where horizons blur into dust devils, a single patrol ignited a shadow that lingered for 7 relentless years. What befell Deputy Elena Reyes? On the 7th of September 1993, this dedicated officer dissolved into the afternoon haze, leaving only questions in her wake. Her final dispatch echoed at 4:12 p.m. 7 years on, the revelation unearthed would chill spines to the marrow. Beyond a simple vanishing, this tale probes the veiled undercurrents of frontier towns, the fragile boundary between order and chaos, and a find so unnerving it scarred all who touched it for eternity. Before we unravel this gripping saga, share in the comments where this draws you in, and subscribe for more tales of the lost. Elena Reyes transcended the uniform. At 31, she'd patrolled Red Oak's isolated stretches for 7 years. Folks recognized her silver Yamaha by its steady purr, and Elena by her warm nod and steady resolve. Standing 5'5", with chestnut waves in a tight ponytail, her pressed khakis and badge, a symbol of quiet authority, Elena earned trust by aiding motorists with flats or locked keys, sometimes dipping into her pocket for fuel for those in need. Her bike's compartments held tow ropes, a repair kit, and survival basics like water and bandages. In 7 years, she'd clocked flawless attendance, no gripes, and handled callers with poise, de-escalating tense stops with a calm word. Her chief dubbed her the steadiest in the ranks, the one who bridged the gap between badge and neighbor. Friday, the 7th of September, 1993, broke warm across Red Oak, 75 degrees Fahrenheit, gentle gusts from the west, carrying the scent of wild sage. Elena pulled into the station at 7 a.m., 10 minutes ahead, as her habit. She ran her standard preps. Radio test crackling clear, tire pressure firm under her gloved hands, engine revving smooth, scanning logs from the quiet night before. The front desk officer recalled her lingering to talk about family barbecue plans after shift, her laugh light as she mentioned grilling with cousins in Austin. At 7:45 a.m., her initial check-in buzzed dispatch. Clear roads, light flow on her beat from the county line, tone casual, assured. No edge of worry or anomaly, just the rhythm of a day unfolding. The operator later said it felt like any other Friday chatter, comfortable and unhurried. Highway 183 ribboned through Texas's core, linking hamlets amid 70 miles of undulating badlands, dotted with thorny scrub and distant oil pumps nodding like silent watchers. Elena's loop passed sun-scorched fields swaying in the breeze, lone ranches with weathered barns, and homesteads shielded by mesquite thickets that rustled secrets. Weekend traffic hummed steadily. Kinfolk road tripping to reunions, haulers towing feed and gear across the dusty miles, out-of-towners chasing backcountry charm with maps folded on dashboards. She knew each signpost by heart, every side trail that veered into forgotten arroyos, every outpost along the way where locals gathered for shade and stories. Regular pit stops at Oakley's Fuel for a quick brew to cut the heat, Red Bluff Cafe for midday bites of brisket and beans. Hot spells often stranded drivers with overheating engines, and Elena had towed dozens over the years, her Yamaha steady as she guided them back to safety. Mostly open vistas with clear sightlines stretching to the horizon, easing both enforcement and passage, though the isolation could turn a breakdown into a desperate wait. Precisely 4:12 p.m. Elena's transmission broke the airwaves last. Break at Driftwood, mile 159, roughly 25 miles east of the county hub, where plains roughen into gullies carved by flash floods. Dispatch noted it in the ledger with a routine acknowledgement, voice weary from a long day under the relentless sun but composed, no panic threading through. Due back on duty at 5 p.m., check-in by 6. Then, the channel went mute, swallowed by static. Analysts replayed that call endlessly over the coming days, hunting tones for the slightest foreboding, a hitch that might hint at the storm brewing. Nothing surfaced. No tremor. No pause too long. Routine words, clipped and final, echoing into an abyss. By 5:15 p.m., operator Carla Jimenez clocked the overdue, her routine ping turning to a hail. Buzz only, no response cutting through. At 5:45 p.m., urgency crept in as she repeated the badge call, voice tightening just a fraction. Emptiness stretched, a void that prickled the air. Other patrols tuned in, ears strained on frequencies that usually buzzed with chatter. At 6:15 p.m., Lieutenant Marco Diaz dialed direct from his cruiser, his call sharp and insistent. Unanswered, he triggered hunts across the board. Station clock struck 7 p.m. as first teams deployed, beacons piercing the deepening twilight like desperate signals. They'd embark on a pursuit devouring Red Oak for 7 years, a quest that would test bonds and unearth long-buried tensions. That evening, quiet became the town's most piercing echo, a silence heavier than any siren. 4 units sped to mile 159 as light waned, tires kicking up gravel in a frantic race against dusk. Diaz directed from his dash, fanning patrols along the path with precise coordinates. At Driftwood Overpass, zilch awaited. No rubber tracks scarring the asphalt, no shards of glass catching the fading rays, no clash of mishap or fight marring the scene. Elena's Yamaha and tan garb? Gone without a whisper, as if the land had claimed them whole. Volunteers swelled into evening, farmers halting work to grab lanterns, spouses brewing pots of strong coffee to fuel the night. Young ones shuttled aside for safety as adult lines formed, grim determination etching every face. They scoured gullies choked with creosote, peered into abandoned sheds, leaning like tired sentinels, voices fracturing the night as they called Elena's name into the gathering dark. The town that claimed Elena as kin mobilized with a fierce unity, born of shared loss. But as clocks neared 1 a.m., yields were zero, only fatigue and fading hope. September 8 dawn, hauled in aid from 4 counties, the sky streaking pink as reinforcements rolled up. Trooper birds scoured grids from above, rotors chopping the air. Foot crews probed every rut and trail, snaking through the brush. Nearby sheriffs brought hounds with noses keen and gear for the rough going. Ops base at Oakley's hummed with radios cracking and maps unfurling, charting grids and volunteers like a wartime command. Press rolled in from Austin, the deputy tale rippling across Texas airwaves and front pages. By midday, 250 joined the fray, a human tide against the vastness. Rotors thrummed miles off, a mechanical heartbeat over the plains. Hounds caught Elena's trace by the overpass, noses low and urgent, but faded quick after a few hundred yards into the wind-whipped scrub. The terrain hid her flawlessly, as if the earth itself conspired in the secret. Probes wove Elena's hours from scattered accounts, piecing a fragile mosaic. At 3:15 p.m., fuel clerk Tomas Ruiz saw her grab drip coffee and a glazed roll, the steam rising in the heat. Brief talk on the dry spell gripping the land, her post-shift drive to Austin kin for a long-awaited gathering. Ruiz noted her ease, weekend vibe light in her eyes, perhaps savoring the promise of off-duty time. A rig driver, Carlos Vega, placed a patrol bike near Driftwood around 4:10 p.m., synced with her call, but scant more, just a fleeting glimpse in the rearview. Pieces sketched a loop of habit, no alarm bells ringing in the routine. Yet, in that 48-minute abyss between transmission and silence, she evaporated completely, leaving investigators grasping at shadows. The gap became the focus of intense scrutiny, a black hole in the timeline. Red Oak, 4,200 souls strong, reeled from such void, the air thick with unspoken dread. Baptist Hall hosted watches that stretched into nights, candles flickering as memories flowed like a communal river. The corner chapel turned volunteer nexus, dishing grub to crews weary from the fields, rallying aides from every corner. Shops chipped in cash for flyers and tools. Hands for the hunt. Ironworks lent beams and ropes for tricky terrain. Cafe fed badges free with heaping plates. Fund hit $28 kelvins fast. Gifts pouring from statewide sympathizers, moved by the tale. Elena was kin, ally in hard times, aid in crises like flooded roads or lost livestock, cheer in wins like county fairs. They clung to life abroad for her, refusing the finality of absence. Sheriff's lines buzzed days in with a torrent. Elena-like figure at an Austin depot, shadowed in the crowd. Bike glimpsed by Dallas outskirts, chrome catching lights. Each yanked teams from core hunts, chasing phantoms across state lines. Seers pitched visions of her in varied spots, ethereal maps drawn in trance. Kind locals flagged odd past events from weeks or months prior, pondering if fleeting suspicions linked to the now yawning gap. Sifting false hopes wore thin the resolve, cycles of spark and snuff grinding down the spirit. Detective work devolved to elimination, sifting chaff while clinging to the dream one lead might pierce the veil. The telephone at the sheriff's department rang constantly, with tips that led nowhere but deeper frustration. A relentless loop of raised hopes and dashed expectations that tested even the hardiest. As days turned to weeks under the relentless sun, sleuths spun fates in late-night briefings. Prime cut. Rig snag in a blind zone off the main drag. Her aid walk turning loss to injury in the unforgiving brush. Alt path. Seizure solo on the beat, wreck tucked in an unprobed nook, untouched by searches. Grimmer shadows loomed. Vendetta from cuffs she'd placed. Elena bagged antagonists who simmered in cells, dreaming payback. Hushed murmur. Willful slip from unseen woes, personal storms brewing beyond the badge. Each fit scattered pieces, none weaving the full tapestry of her, fade into nothing. Luis and Sofia Reyes, wed 40 years, ex-ranchers with calloused hands from decades on the land, raised Elena and brother Mateo in their sagging Elmwood home, where the porch swing creaked memories. Sofia preserved Elena's space with tender care. Braided rug at the bed's foot, shelves lined with rodeo ribbons from her youth. Luis hit every probe, despite the ache in his 70-year joints, map in hand. Mateo commuted from Fort Worth weekends, bolstering the fold with quiet strength. The limbo, alive somewhere, gone forever. Barred morning's release, hope a double-edged blade that cut deeper with each empty dawn. Beats 70 miles of raw land. Scrub-choked canyons, flash flood scars, strained thin squads to their limits. Fall deluges muddied lanes into impassable slop. Winter blanked hints under a hard crust. Feds eyed the case from afar, but no hook for their net. Funds pinched full probes to skeletons. Probes shifted to active calls. Elena's relegated to sporadic check-ins amid the press of daily chaos. Town brass fretted costs, mounting like storm clouds. Rep hits from headlines painting Red Oak as haunted ground. November 93 iced the chase, frosts settling like a shroud. Crews thinned to spot weekends when skies cleared and volunteers mustered will. Buzz chased anew duties, the urgency dulling to ache. They shelved 183's number for respect, a quiet tribute, but hired anew to fill the gap. First-year rite at Baptist drew the town. No remains to mourn, but faith flickered in hymns and shared tears. Sofia gripped Elena's thermos, steam long gone. Luis eyed crossbeams with stoic gaze. Closed with, "It is well," tunes drifting to graves under gray skies, voices carrying unresolved longing. Detective Raul Mendoza joined Red Oak Fall 94, packing 12 years from Dallas PD's grind. Haunted by kin's open sleigh from 89, a wound that never scarred over, he sought cold trails to heal his own. Mendoza scrutinized files under desk lamps, every shot and word dissected like clues in a puzzle. Spotted timeline snags and recollections, unchecked zones along the dusty vein, noted 2 kin cases lurking in the stacks. 91 ranch hand Joel Vargas, lost on 183 during a routine haul. 92 sales rep. Nina Hale gone. Same vein. Her van empty at road's edge. Vargas 91, Reyes 93, Hale 92, all trailed near driftwood. In daylit weekends. Lone figures, with no eyes on their last steps. Mendoza charted a triad around the overpass, pins forming a ominous pattern. Suspected roamer preying loners in the quiet hours, explained Elena's skill, fail against a versed foe who'd honed the art in shadows. Linking probes hit walls thick as canyon rock. Diner vets clammed up at his approach, chats dying like embers doused. Old hands hinted, stir not the dust of old graves. Eyes averted. From 36 the span bridged a storm-gouged gap, concrete enduring but scarred. Logs showed 40s plunges, rigs over rails to depths, lives lost in the ravine below. Elders called it hexed, folklore weaving warnings of ill luck, though most waved it off as tall tales. Mendoza quizzed, builds and upkeep reports, structure sound, but remote as a forgotten prayer, ideal for ambushes unseen. Dug, if death's pull lured the lost, a morbid magnet in the wilds. Buzz turned to Harlan Ranch, derelict 12 miles off driftwood, fences sagging like weary bones. Harlan died 88 in solitude, land mouldered under sun and storm, weeds reclaiming all. Youths partied in its shadows for thrills, adults shunned with tales of unease. Recollections swirled, odd glows piercing night, machine whirs at witching hours, ghosts slipping in divided by out, unseen by town eyes. Mendoza chalked much to gossip spun over fences, but the recurrence pricked curiosity, a perfect veil for darker deeds. Spring 95, he scouted alone. 1,800 acres of bramble-throttled drops and fallow pastures echoing emptiness. House charred to its stone base post. 89 blaze, chimney stark among weeds. Shed sagged in decay, loft half down like a broken jaw. Shop glassed out and gaping. Bunker-like store, sealed in silence. Quick sweep yielded rust-pitted tools, rot-eaten beams, beast nests in corners, nothing screaming link, but scale daunted. Isolation a siren's call without gear or backup. Radar bid for deeper digs, nixed by tight belts, coffers bare from prior hunts. Legal webs tangled. Owner heirs distant. Warrants mandating for official probes on abandoned ground. Mendoza seethed at red tape coiling like thorns. Designed it seemed to choke progress. Peers eyed his fixation warily. Whispers of obsession with ghosts long cold. He toiled nights and off days, funding self with pocket change for gas and tips, weekends blurred to rural roads revisited, elders coaxed for scraps, clues chased in zones scoured before. Wife griped the Elena chats eclipsing home fires, distance growing like weeds unchecked. Yet he soldiered. Visits to Reyes, fueling the fire. Luis, ailing with worry's weight. Sophia plating for 3 in ritual denial. Closure oath burned deep. A vow etched in resolve. 99 GPS hit agencies like a revelation. Mendoza mapped misses with precision. 3 rugged private zones post-call flagged as voids. Modeled paths, lands, timings in digital webs. Prime hides where secrets fester. Young geo-whiz Tara Lynn joined the fray. Her drain know-how key to hold or dissolve of traces. Lynn flagged flood drifts from driftwood. Seasonal surges sweeping bike afar from crash cradle. Duo honed science in late sessions, targeting downstream layers where waters waned. Mendoza rallied April 99. Hunt on models. Geofusion. Dry spell easing footing, while heat lagged behind. Volleys packed detectors for metal ghosts. Buried deep. Vets with scarred hands. X-badges honoring the call. Reyes kin pressed on with unyielding grit. Precision ops. Zones assigned like battle lines. Logs tight as iron. 7 years ache hung heavy in the air. Breakthrough beckoning or another bust in the endless quest? 3:45 p.m. April 12. Scout Rosa Finch spied shine in 2.8-mile downstream gully, debris veiled under layers of time and tangle. Mud shed slow. Silver bars emerging from soil, like buried silver. Elena's Yamaha. Side flopped in the cradle of earth, spokes wound with grass and stubborn thorns. Mendoza sped in, awestruck at the relic of her last loop, heart pounding the rhythm of vindication. 7 years phantom, now flesh and rust before them. But yields? Mystery deepened. The find a riddle, wrapped in decay. State lab hauled it gentle, analysts poring over every dent and scrape. Impacts mismatched, a natural dump. Chromes spared from fury. Bits forced with intent. Helmet yards off. Shell split oddly for speed's violence. No upper marks of wild flight. Tag inside. Engraved plate wedged deep. Quarry deep. Heed wins. ER. Her mark. Per kit etchings. Suggested life post-split. A deliberate hint from the brink, pointing to unseen refuge. Plate led to Stone Canyon Quarry. Shut 60 seconds for cave risks. Weather-weak barriers crumbling like old lies. Mendoza's crew. Pros in harness. Medics on standby. Breaching with caution's weight. Dank air hit first, thick with mildew and forgotten damp. Hab traces scattered. Pads frayed but placed. Jugs crusted. Scraps freshish against the stone. Radio dead as dust. Flashlight dim. Aids for hurts stained with old intent. Week's use etched in wear. Packed neat, like planned return. A ghost's tidy exit. Recorder hummed fragments of her voice upon power. Accidents limp to pit shadows. Radio blocks by rock tombs. Climbs foiled by pain's chain. Logs in audio grit. 25 days fight against fade. Voice shakes mounting like fever. Last whisper. September 29. Winds carry help. Homebound at last. Abrupt cut. Saved by hand? Or delirium's curtain? No remains surfaced in sweeps. Probes fanned wide through the canyon's veins. Mendoza guessed aid ignored in the wilds. Or body tucked deeper still. Case hung unsolved. Logs shedding light yet veiling the close with more shade. Fall 99 brought a crack. Vet rancher Gino Alvarez stepped forward, voice rough with years. October 93 found uniform-torn woman matching Elena on his spread near the pit, drove her to Mercy ER, 50 miles off. Name? Outcome? Lost to time. 93 files, spotty as sand. Staff scattered like tumbleweeds. Alvarez's yarn hinted escape from the edge, but unbacked by paper or proof, memory's foe after 7 turns. Mercy check unearthed gaps yawning wide. Upgrade loss in 95. Mendoza sniffed deliberate purge, shadows of intent. Ex-staff gone to graves or horizons, no eyes to verify. Corp pole ties loomed. Ownership tangled with local powers, hinting shield for elite sins. Aid skimped like a guilty hand. Truth buried under admin stone. Puzzles stacked high. Bike staged in gully's hide. Pit encounter with unseen foe. Rescue hushed in hospital halls. None flagged her post. The massive net of hunts. Mendoza eyed a net of silence. Locals sealed lips tight. Ties to pit kin harboring old beefs. Pattern wove prior 91,092 solos into the triad. Threads of predator or pact. Town guarded its core. Probe clashing against a silence pact woven deep. By 2000, trails cold as winter dust. Mendoza bowed out. Reyes unresolved weighing like lead on soul. Luis passed 02 unknowing. Heart heavy. Sophia keeps vigil in the home's hush. Answers a distant prayer. Red oak bears the scar etched in whispers. Some no more. Lips locked eternal. File shelves in archives dim. Awaits a crack of light from new eyes or tongues loosened. Dispatch poise versus buried mute. Echo of irretrievables, a fracture unhealed. On one side, Deputy Elena Reyes as she rode, professional fire, dedicated heart, smiling beside her silver Yamaha under September's blaze. On the other, what resurfaced after 7? Rusted frame, half entombed in thorns, silent testimony to tragedy veiled. Elena's courage and survival instinct carried her through 25 days in quarry depths, but her ultimate fate remains a whisper in the wind, unsolved and aching. The probe pierced layers of cover, suggesting community hands knew the tale but chose the seal. For Red Oak's folk, Elena's void left scars that time can't fade, reminder that even in kin-tied towns, horrors lurk buried deep. Some fades leave more than voids, questions echoing generations, gales carrying Elena's end in endless loop. Elena's trail endures as one of true crime's most haunting colds, a probe spanning 7 years of grit, unveiling a vanishing far deeper than dust. Her saga whispers that some slip without trace, leaving only the chase of the unyielding. What seals this vanishing's chill? Not just the deputy's loss, but the hush that followed. Truth, often soil-sealed under secrets and silence, as in so many real-life rifts. Elena's echo chills. Even frontier America harbors shocks unsolved for ages.